The release process can take you to so many places. And I'm here to share with you about how you can use it to cross into other realms and speak to those who are no longer on the earthly plane, i.e., they're not alive, they're not in their physical body anymore, they have passed over. So, if you've managed to get hold of my book, Healing Beyond the Diagnosis, this was the hardest thing for me to share, is the actual release process. Because I could write a whole book about the release process in itself, and there are many variations of how you can utilize it. So, the version that I share with you in HBD is the most basic form. And it's where all of my clients start before they start tapping into other realms. And sometimes there's just themes and patterns that happen on the release process where we'll have a whole bunch of people who are releasing on organs or body parts. There'll be a whole theme happening or a segment of people who are doing positive releases. There are other people who are going into the other realms and they are releasing on loved ones or supportive ones who have passed over and seeking guidance and support. And I know this sounds amazing to learn right now, but you've got to learn how to do the most basic form. You've got to get used to what comes up before we start going into other dimensions. But I want to let you know that that is where you can go. So, the reason I'm recording this is because it has been a theme coming up in the last few weeks where, especially with my one-to-one clients, a little message pops in, a conversation happens. I'm like, all right, this is where we need to go with a facilitated release today. And for a long time, I felt like, well, with all of my work, that it had to be facilitated. And then I started seeing people being able to do the release process on people, and then to be able to do it on organs or body parts. And then the release process on those not here on the earthly plane, I very much felt like that had to be supported in my release course, or sorry, no, just facilitated one-to-one. I wouldn't go there in my course. And then I started attracting people who were able to go there in their first round. I just actually, on my ninth round of release, in February 2025, I had a wonderful woman who came on my very first release course in 2021, March 2021. And I knew that she had lost a significant other in her life. But we didn't go there on the first round of release. And then we parted ways for a little while. We've kept in touch very lightly. And then I was just so pleased to have her decide to come back on the ninth round of release, 9 rounds later, which would be 4.5 years later. And she went right into processing on her significant other that was no longer here in the physical world. And it's something that back in 2021, I was like, I know that's where we've got to go, but it's not for me to necessarily say this is where we should go. I can always highlight it, but the next layer will appear for you to work on an emotional level when you are ready. It's the same for all of this emotional work. You can get it on a cognitive, on a mental level, on a head level, but it's your readiness, it's your capacity that will lead you into this work to actually embody, to actually integrate it. So, yeah, I've just been having fascinating facilitated sessions, and in the last group, there was some really great, and actually the previous group as well, of release, taking them through releasing with those on the other side. But as I said, you got to learn the basic form. You know, we don't jump to manifestation before working on our emotions. We don't jump to crossing over into other dimensions and realms without learning the basic foundations. Because just like if you embrace any sort of like energy healing, seeing psychics or astrologers or, channels, any of these people, is that what comes through on the other side, whether or not it lands for you, depends on whether or not you've got capacity to be able to hear, to be able to interpret, and really understand the depths of the message. And, sometimes we say that we want to speak to those on the other side or speak to the dead, but we're not actually ready for it. So I know, and I personally have used channels or mediums to speak to those on the other side. Sometimes it's no one specific, but it's just like whoever needs to come through. And sometimes I'm just like, I have no relationship with this person. I don't know why they're coming through. And when using people like this, like I love it, which is what I'm talking about. I use them as well. We're handing it over to them. But it really fascinated me with the release process, how this continued to evolve and how you could actually take a practical structure and anyone can use it as long as they're safe, as long as they're comfortable, to start to connect in with those on the other side. And usually this is really helpful for when you're in a state of transition, whatever that transition might be. Okay. Letting go of one life, moving into the next, letting go of an identity, moving into the next. And I think it's quite normal to have fear. I've done this over and over again in my lifetime. I feel like I've lived many lifetimes in this lifetime. But for example, today when I was facilitating a process for a client, one person came through for me, for them to do a release with my guidance, and someone else came through for them. So we ended up doing the release process on both of them separately. And really, the intention was to be able to ask for guidance and support. However, the way the release process is structured and how you use it with those who have crossed over into other realms, other dimensions, living another life, their soul, is you still honor the process. You don't just jump to, can you give me guidance and support on this? Like we went as far, sometimes little ideas drop in for me that I speak to. For this particular session, it's like, okay, well, a lot of the time people want to know that they've still got their continued guidance and support as they're making transitions and moves in their physical life. And so I'll say, okay, well, how will you know that this person, and I'm going to ask X, Y, Z, what is the sign that they're going to give you that lets you know that that is them giving guidance and support? And what's funny is that sometimes the sign can be so interlinked with other themes that are going on. The sign comes through pretty instantly. Other times it can be something, a sign that really irritates someone. And why does it irritate you? Maybe because it's like a message that you're not listening to. So we can then start to flip the script without overriding, but just have this deeper understanding of, okay, maybe this is a message for me. All right. So I absolutely love facilitating and supporting people to be able to connect in with the other side. But there is a timing, there is a readiness, there is a capacity. There's a lot of beautiful emotions that shift. And I want to let you know that you don't necessarily need to see mediums, channels, psychics to be able to tap into this. You are able to do this on your own. And of course, if it's challenging to do on your own, then that's where I recommend you seek support. But I'm just always so fascinated how the release process continues to evolve. If you're just coming across this share and you're new to my work, then the best place to find out about it would be the Healing Beyond the Diagnosis book. Or, yeah, just follow along on my social media. I've got a free masterclass, the missing link. I'll put all of these links in the show notes, and that will lead you into being able to expose yourself little by little to the release process. And of course, the whole hog is the release course where you get to work with me, but you don't necessarily come in with the intention of, I want to connect in with those on the other side, because that would be an expectation. And I teach people come in with the intention, not expectation. Because as I said, even sometimes I feel like, okay, this person is going to go there, but is it this timing for it? Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Let me know what lands. You can always reach out to me on my Instagram. The Art of Listening to Your Body is where I am most active.